We've talked about a lot of degenerates on this channel, people who should be rotting in a prison cell somewhere with no hope of release. Today, we're talking about a person who actually went to jail for the heinous stuff they've done, but after doing their time, they've decided to come on YouTube and be very open about being a predator, and they make content designed around helping other sick-minded individuals. This dude might genuinely be one of the worst people I've covered. He might dethrone Nick Bate, and if you've watched my Nick Bate video, you know that's a serious claim. So let's look at this guy's channel. The channel is called Modern Day Leper. His real name is Ahmed Blakemore. And no, I'm not doxing him. He puts his name in the description of his videos, and he also says his name in the videos. But that last name, Blakemore, sounds eerily familiar. I feel like I know someone else with that last name. I wonder who it is.
Like, once the furries find his channel and this avatar, there's gonna be a lot of porn. There's gonna be a lot of porn.
Disclaimer, Slim actually came up with that joke, gave me explicit permission to make it. And no, they're not related at all. He checked. He actually checked. They're not. They just happen to have the same last name. Small world, I guess. That little bit right there is likely going to be the only source of intentional comedy in this video, by the way. Because I ain't going to lie to you guys, this is beyond disgusting. Okay, so real quick background on this channel. It was created back in February 18th of 2021, so it's relatively new. And at the time of making this video, it has 1.17k subs. The description says the following.
This channel is dedicated to the millions of marginalized people across the United States, known as sex offenders. This is a specialized ministry for specialized needs. Through love, motivation, spiritual guidance, and training, our goal is to help the individual and their families with an open mind address the public, ask for their help and understanding, to give them information they may not have, that the gaps between ideas may be bridged. Finally, to our spirit-based communities who are the true foundation for long-term growth. I say thank you for all that you have helped me achieve in my life and business. And may we ask that you please continue to support us. The face of Christ must be seen in his people. Then we will have success.
We need to break that down. So first of all, usually when people say marginalized, they're talking about people who are unfairly disadvantaged by society. Usually you see like a lot of breadtube channels do this, where they'll say this word, describe people who either aren't white or are women or LGBT, for example, or like, I don't know, like migrants or illegal immigrants, that kind of thing. They'll use that term a lot as like a catch-all for that. But by him using this word, it seems like he's trying to equate sex offenders to people who have suffered unjust discrimination. And the thing is, and I probably don't even need to tell you this, sex offenders are discriminated against for a good reason, because they've done arguably some of the most evil things you can think of. And I know not all sex offenders are child molesters, but, you know, y'all are in that camp. And other, you know, sex crimes are still beyond fucked, so, you know, no sympathy from me. He then, going off of his description, he then encourages people to be understanding of sex offenders. And look, I understand what you did, and that's why you're hated by society as a whole, and rightfully so. He then talks about faith in Christ, and look, I'm not religious, but I'm willing to bet a lot of Christians would not want to claim this guy. In fact, a lot of Christians I know, they are in the PDF files to get the camp. And in their minds, the only treatment for these kind of people is Canadian healthcare, or remaining in prison for life. In his channel banner, he also claims that he's, quote, helping sex offenders live better, and that he's an ex-offender. All one word, by the way. And that he has been, quote, forever healed in Jesus' name. Once a sex offender, always a sex offender. Like, that's one of those things that will and should haunt you for the rest of your life until the day you die. And even beyond that. And I don't care if you seek religion or not personally, because I don't give a damn about it or believe in that stuff. So to me, like, you're always the same. You're always a monster. It just is what it is. You know, just stay the fuck away from me, basically. And kids, especially if you're that kind of sex offender, stay away from kids. And even the name of his channel feels like it's trying to garner sympathy, because Lepers were shunned historically because no one wanted to catch leprosy for good reason. Especially back then, because it's not like we had, modern medicine and stuff. So like once you got this, you were basically fucked. But I still would say the people who had leprosy were demonized. But the thing is, someone isn't an evil person because they have leprosy. You are an evil person for harming kids or, R-wording adults or whatever, and you know what I mean. I don't think it's a coincidence that he's trying to equate sex offenders to lepers and that he picked that name specifically. He may also have picked it for biblical reasons too, but I ain't no, religious person, religious scholar or whatever the hell, so I'm not the right person to go too far into that. But the first thing you'll see on his channel is a video titled Sex Offenders Welcome. He talks about why this channel exists, and before we even get into the video, in the comments, someone brings up that his victim was 12 years old. Another comment that he actually responded to, he claims he himself was a victim as a child. And it's unfortunately true that some victims of this type of abuse end up replicating what was done to them on other people. It's like a cycle of abuse. It's tragic. It's fucked up and unfortunate that it happens. But it doesn't excuse the things you've done, nor is that going to garner any sympathy from me. Because at the end of the day, you still chose to repeat the cycle. But I've stalled enough. Let's actually dig into this video and hear what this guy has to say.
I wanted to take this opportunity just to reiterate what we're about. We're about sex offender lifestyle, or those on the registry. Registry lifestyle is important. There are hundreds of thousands of men and women across the United States and the world that are registered citizens. And because we are registered citizens, people think negative of us, but that's not so. We do have a lifestyle.
Question, are you going to address why people have a negative opinion of you? Because you cause physical, emotional, and psychological harm to people that, unfortunately, for a lot of your victims, would never fully go away. Also, you notice how he says registered citizens instead of saying registered sex offenders? It really comes off like he's trying to soften a blow, which is beyond disgusting.
We have a lifestyle. We are the registered citizens of the United States and the world, and this channel is dedicated to us, the Modern Day Leper with Ahmed Blakemore. Moreover, we are going to be on Patreon so that you can join and support us. If you want to support us directly, my Cash App is always available, as well as my email address.
And there it is. So you want people to give you money? I feel like if you give this guy money, you should probably be on some kind of watch list. If you aren't already on that list for a different reason, or on a different list. But the audacity of this bitch. Does that money go towards organizations that try to help the victims of people like you? That would be one thing. He's claimed that he's raised money for charities and stuff, but he don't provide any receipts or anything. At least if he does, I haven't seen it in any of his videos, so I take that with a grain of salt. And I tried to find this guy's Patreon, but I can't find that in the description of his videos. But I do see his Cash App, so maybe his Patreon got taken down. Maybe Patreon actually did something right. I don't know. Either way, it goes without saying, if you give this guy money, you are scum, as far as I'm concerned. The first video I see on this channel is from January 10th of 2022, and it's titled 5 Things a Sex Offender Wish You Knew. One thing I noticed in his comments is he sometimes tries to defend himself, and he'll claim he's raised over 20K for victims groups, and that he's in contact with his victim, who is apparently in their 40s now. I don't believe any of that is true, personally, but, that's just crazy to me. But speaking of comments, a lot of the comments on this video seem to be outright praising him. So I'm guessing there's a lot of sex offenders in these comments, and given what this channel is about, that shouldn't be too surprising. He has a lot of videos talking about God and religion. Look, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it with this shit. I am 100% convinced he is using this as a shield. Like, you see people do this all the time. Well, they'll do heinous shit and they say, oh, they've changed, they found God, they're saved, and oh, they repented and all this crap. When deep down, they're the same fucker they've always been. But maybe that's just me being insanely cynical like I always am, but that's just how I read that whenever someone does that shit. But let's get into the real meat and potatoes of this. He made a video basically condemning sting operations that, you know, police do to try and catch people like him. And he tries to argue that, oh, because there's no real child involved, therefore the guy isn't actually a predator and stuff. And this is the video that I think got a lot of channels like mine to pay attention to him. So, let's get into this bullshit.
More. So over the past few years, we've seen an uptick in predator shows where we see the predator stings taking place. To Catch a Predator with Chris Hansen was one of the bigger ones, but there are a lot of them now. And so the uptick in pedophilia type prosecutions is on the rise. Why is that? Why are these shows popping up? And why are these pedophile type actions and prosecutions taking place?
It could be because people are becoming more and more aware of how these people use the internet to lure their potential victims. And people want to stop them before they harm a child by doing sting operations. And people watch these shows because I can attest this myself. People like watching evil people get punished and face consequences for their actions. Like, there's something cathartic about it. The more people do predator sting operations, and I'm going to specify this, do them correctly with, you know, law enforcement involved, or just law enforcement themselves are the one doing it, and, you know, the actual people who have that dog in them take the bait, the more people are going to be charged, and that means we have less sickos on the street and less people harming kids, which is a good thing. Like, this ain't rocket science. He then goes on talking about Law & Order SVU, which is a fictional cop show. I don't think I need to explain Law & Order SVU, because that thing has been on since like September 20th, 1999, according to a quick web search, which is insane that a show has been running for that long. That's nuts.
What is the purpose of all of this? Why are they doing this? What is the point that they're trying to make? Well, it's very simple. The point that they're trying to make is they want to show that there is an uptick in pedophilia activity and that there are more pedophiles than there really are. And so they're going all out of the way to make sure that this propaganda gets out.
Propaganda? Are you high? I don't have like the statistics on how many child predators there are, you know, versus like the US population. I could probably find that if I spent, you know, I don't know however long it would take me to Google it up. I just want to ask him a very simple question. What's wrong with this show saying sick shit like this happens all the time? Because it probably does. Like, I don't see the harm in a show portraying how this can happen and how this does happen, because it happens every day.
There is a technique that the police use to get prosecutions. This technique that they're using is used for hard to get criminals. Why are these criminals hard to get? Because the crimes are hard to commit. You'll understand here in a minute. So this is called tricked and trapped. The police use a technique called entrapment. Entrapment. The action of tricking someone into committing a crime in order to secure their prosecution. Let me read a different definition of entrapment for you so we can have a full understanding of what this means. Entrapment is a practice in which a law enforcement agent or agent of the state induces a person to commit a crime that the person would have otherwise been unlikely or unwilling to commit. Think about that.
I know where he's going with this because I've seen people try to use the defense against sting operations before. So the first thing about entrapment, and I'll admit it's a little confusing, you have to looking it up and stuff. I still have a hard time explaining it. But entrapment is a legal defense to a criminal charge according to the US Department of Justice. Their website says, just bear with me, this is a long one.
Entrapment is a complete defense to a criminal charge on the theory that government agents may not originate a criminal design, implant in an innocent person's mind the disposition to commit a criminal act, and then induce commission of the crime so that the government may prosecute. Jacobson v. United States 503, U.S. 540, 548, 1992. A valid entrapment defense has two related elements. 1. Government inducement of the crime, and 2. The defendant's lack of predisposition to engage in the criminal conduct. Matthews v. United States 485, U.S. 5863, 1988. Of the two elements, predisposition is by far the most important.
It goes on to clarify what is inducement.
Inducement is the threshold issue in the entrapment defense. Mere solicitation to commit a crime is not inducement. Sorrells v. United States 287, U.S. 435, 451, 1932. Nor does the government's use of artifice, stratagem, pretense, or deceit establish inducement. ID at 441. Rather, inducement requires a showing of at least persuasion or mild coercion. United States v. Nations 764, F.D2 1073, 1080. 5th Circuit, I think that's movie circuit, 1985. Pleas based on needs, sympathy, or friendship, a bid, or extraordinary promises of that sort that would blind the ordinary person to his legal duties. United States v. Evans, 924. F.2D, 714-717, 7th Circuit, 1991. See also United States v. Kelly, 748, FD2 691-698, DC Circuit, 1984. Inducement shown only if government behavior was such that a law-abiding citizen's will to obey the law could have been overborne. United States v. Johnson, 872, F.2D, 612, 620, 5th Circuit, 1989. Inducement shown if government created a substantial risk that an offense would be committed by a person other than one ready to commit it.
Okay, that was a lot of legal jargon. I'm not a lawyer, but it sounds to me like a cop simply suggesting you break the law is an entrapment, or setting up the opportunity for you to do it is an entrapment. Like, for instance, if they have like a bait car and they put, I don't know, like a MacBook in the passenger seat and you go and break into the car or try to steal the car, like, that's not entrapment because you decided to do that. Like, the cop didn't put a loaded gun in your head and say you were going to break into this car and then arrest you afterwards, or told you to get in the car and then said, oh, you broke into the car later. Then that would actually be entrapment, I'd imagine. Or at the very least, it would get thrown out. But, like, in the scenarios that Ahmed's gonna, talk about, if I'm a cop and I'm using, like, a decoy account and I'm pretending to be a minor and I tell the suspected pedophile that my parents aren't home and they come over and bring condoms and they show up with the condoms, I didn't entrap, because again, at the end of the day, I offered you the opportunity to commit a crime and you took it. I didn't force you into it. From my understanding of this, and I'm sure some lawyer or someone who's, law adjacent can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. If you do, I'll like pin your comment or whatever. But if the person has the ability to walk away and not do the thing that would be criminal, then I don't think it's entrapment. Again, I'm no lawyer, I'm just good at looking shit up and looking at reputable sources to try and understand it. Like I said, it's kind of confusing, especially because I don't have a law background, but the justice.gov page says even more.
Even if inducement has been shown, a finding of predisposition is fatal to an entrapment defense. The predisposition inquiry focuses upon whether the defendant was an unwary, innocent, or instead an unwary criminal who readily availed himself of the opportunity to perpetrate the crime. Matthews 45, U.S. at 63. Thus, Predisposition should not be confused with intent or mens rea. A person may have the requisite intent to commit the crime, yet be entrapped. Also, predisposition may exist even in the absence of prior criminal involvement. The ready commission of the criminal act, such as where a defendant promptly accepts an undercover agent's offer of an opportunity to buy or sell drugs, may itself establish predisposition. Jacobson 503, US at 550.
So, sting operations, if done correctly by law enforcement, wouldn't be entrapment. That's the point I'm trying to make. I probably went on too long of a tangent there, but let's move on.
They rent a house. They find a house. They hire some actors to pretend that they are children. These actors could be 18, 19, 20, 25, 30. But they act like and sound like children, and they use them for bait so that they can catch these would-be so-called predators.
If they are aware that the decoy is claiming to be a minor and they still try to engage sexually with them, they are a predator by definition. Now, if the decoy never discloses that they are a minor before the person starts, being sexual towards them, in a, like let's say the suspect asked them for nudes from the decoy, or was trying to meet up with them, then you might have a case. But from what I've seen from shows like To Catch a Predator, the decoys are pretty upfront with how old they are, so the suspect knows the person is a minor, thus giving them the opportunity to disengage, and they are aware that, if I continue to do this, this is going to be criminal, or could lead to criminal activity. The mere fact that you knowingly try to be sexual towards someone that you believe is a minor alone already makes you predatory. And the fact that he's trying to twist this as these people aren't predators, they would just manipulate into it, is beyond fucked up and sick. And I thought your religion wasn't big on lying. I thought that was one of the things you're not supposed to do.
On these chat lines, talking to these men, trying to entice them for sex. They tell the men that they are a certain age. I'm 14, I'm 15, but I'm mature for my age. People say I look a little older. People say I'm smart for my age. I don't act 14. I'm more mature. In the minds of these men, baiting their thoughts, enticing them, even sending pictures of half-naked children with no faces, of course, but they're texting pictures to really get these men worked up, to really build their appetite, keeping the conversation going, enticing them, warming them up for the kill.
First of all, according to the justice.gov site, if I'm reading that correctly, a cop enticing you or tempting you to commit a crime doesn't automatically equal entrapment. It sounds like coercion to some degree is allowed. Like they can't do something, like I said, put a loaded gun in your head and make you, take the bag full of drugs and then arrest you for it, for example. I know that's probably an extreme example. But you get my point. They're allowed to coerce you up to a certain amount. And I don't think I've ever heard of law enforcement using real lewd or nude pictures of children to bait pedos in. I've heard some using younger, pictures of people who are adults now, but when they were, kids, as for the decoy profiles, but the pictures are, just a picture of their face or something. From my understanding, the suspect has to be the one that asked for the lewd images anyway, because soliciting nudes from someone underage is a crime, whether or not you receive them. Even if the decoy is being flirtatious and trying to goad the person into being sexual towards them, you're still the adult in the situation. The onus is on you to cease all communication and block the person when you are aware that they are a minor and that they are trying to encourage you to engage in inappropriate behavior. You're still responsible for your own actions.
Police officers acting like 14-year-olds in order to spring the trap on pedophiles. I think this is deplorable. Why would adults act like children who want to have sex with adults? If they believe it's wrong for children to have sex with adults, why are they acting like children who want to have sex with adults?
Because there are people out here that want to molest children and they need to be caught and arrested before they actually harm a child. And the safest way to do that is to do these sting operations where no actual child is involved. I mean, I'd rather them do that than wait until a child is actually scarred for life by one of these people. Or worse. And once again, this all begins with a choice. The pedophile chooses to engage sexually with the decoy. That is the crime here. It is their intent. It's like if someone offered me a cigarette. I don't smoke, so I'll just say no. Even if they keep telling me how amazing the cigarettes are, I ain't budging. If I did budge and I did smoke it, then yes, they did entice me to do it, but I still had a choice in the matter. I could have still walked away and done something else. I'm still the one to blame for smoking it at the end of the day.
Them. If sexting is illegal, why is the police doing it? Why do they have the ability to entrap, to entice men to commit crimes? These men are nervous. They decide, I'm not sure I want to do that. Well, here, let me show you what I look like. Oh.
Okay, you keep calling this entrapment when it isn't. If it was, then people would walk because you can, argue that in court. And if the court looks at what happened and be like, yeah, the cop entrapped you. Second, even if that scenario you laid out does happen, if the suspect still continues to flirt with what they think is a child and it escalates from there, they're still a predator. If they block the person and never interact with them again, then they might not be a predator. Again, it all comes back to the core of the issue. Everything begins with a choice. I'm going to fast forward a bit so I don't sound like too much of a broken record.
They're acting. There is no child. They have to get you to the house because that is where the trap is sprung. And they finally entice you to get to the house. And now you're there. And now they're springing the trap on you. Aha! You came looking for a child. We're going to arrest you and put you in jail because we were acting like children, because we were using our imagination to make you think that there was a child here that wasn't really here. So there really is no victim?
He seems awfully upset about this. I wonder, is he speaking from firsthand experience here? Well, yes, there is no child in these scenarios. What would happen if a real child was there? Like if nothing else about the situation changed. Now you've got a kid that's likely traumatized for life, assuming the predator didn't also murder them. The issue is the intent. You intended to meet with a child to molest them. The child being real or not is irrelevant. The point is, you think it's real and you're acting under the assumption that it is real. It's like if I put a gun on the table with a magazine inserted and you pick it up and you point it at me and pull the trigger. Just because there isn't a bullet in the gun doesn't magically mean you didn't just try to shoot me with it, which would net you an attempted murder charge, I imagine. If the gun was actually loaded, I'd either be dead or going to the hospital, so the intent doesn't change regardless of the outcome.
They control what is said. They control what is done. They control all of the enticements. They control giving out the address, enticing the person to come, the children, so-called. And we find out that there are no victims, just actors.
While law enforcement does have some control over the situation, they're not in total control because they can't control what you do. I'm gonna sound like a broken fucking record, but you are in control of your own actions. Like the cigarette example from earlier. Sure, the person's presenting me with the cigarettes, I'm in the room with them, and they're like, hey, you wanna take the cigarette, but, you know, it's good or whatever. But them tempting me to do it, or setting up a scenario where I could smoke a cigarette, doesn't absolve me if I actually do it. Same thing with these pedophiles.
So we're charging men for crimes that don't exist. First of all, there are no victims because there were no children. The children were imaginary. We're being played by actors who are enticing men, entrapping them to commit crimes that they would not otherwise commit through lies and manipulation. Police officers are creating pedophiles and increasing the sexual registry for more sex offenders.
No, they would have otherwise committed it. The very nature of them meeting the decoy for sex proves that. The police aren't making these people pedophiles. These people already had that in them. Like, if I gave you a gun and you shoot your neighbor, did I make you a murderer just because I gave you a gun? Of course not. The cops are proving that you have the intent to harm a child. That's why they entice you to show up at the meeting place. Because if you show up there, it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that had this been a real child, you would have done something criminal. Also, if you even ask a minor for nudes online, that alone is already a crime that could and should land you in prison. And while yes, the children in these sting ops are imaginary, thankfully, the 12-year-old you got convicted of diddling wasn't. He repeats the same talking points I've already poked holes in and continues to repeat how there was no child, so this is all manufactured and that these people aren't predators. And like I said, I'm going to turn to a broken record if we keep going. So we're just going to stop here. Holy shit, it's been a while since the subject has genuinely gotten me mad. This dude is a definition of scum. That video is beyond fucked. I don't know what pisses me off even more. Him or the people in the comments agreeing with him. I've seen some other pedos and pedo apologists try to make the same arguments he's making here, but it's genuinely disturbing that so many people in the comments are agreeing with him instead of actively roasting his ass. There were people there that were. Like, one guy was trying to offer to debate him on this, and of course he never responded because he knows that he would probably get destroyed, although it would be entertaining. I, for one, am glad the cops do this to get sickos off the streets before they actually harm children. Or more of them. But let me know what you guys think of this shit. Man, I wish Mr. Medicare was, you know, cancer-free and healthy, you know, and fully, you know, full of energy again. And if he saw this dude, I imagine he would absolutely torch this fucker and it would be like historic. It would be like one of those moments that would just live on in internet history. Because you know Medicare would be beyond savage. I mean, you saw how he was with Ross, the bathtub Ross. I only looked at 2 of Ahmed's videos, but at the time of making this, there are 75 of these fucking things. I don't have the patience or the alcohol to get through them without wanting to flip a desk. So I'm gonna go drink or do something so I can try and forget this shit and try to get too angry. You all try to have a good one despite the dark subject matter of this video here. And if you did like the video, you know, leave like, comments, subscribe, all that shit. I'm done. I'm done. Fucking hell, man.